Hello and welcome to part 2 of 1.2.1, which is physical activity on your healthy mind and body. Today we are going to look at optimum weight in sport. Now, optimum weight is defined as the most favourable weight in a particular sport. It's important that you note down this definition because you will need to know it for your exam and really understand it for today's video. Sport people have very different optimum weights in different sports and maybe the different positions they play, and they work towards getting to that optimum weight through the diet and through the training so that they're able to perform at the highest level. Now, if we look at this picture of the England rugby team, you'll see that obviously they're all top athletes playing for the rugby team, but they all have very different body shapes and sizes and different somatotypes, which will mean that they will have very different optimum weights. And this is affected by a number of different things, and this is important because different positions will need different optimum weights, and that will make sense as we go on through the video. Now, what we're going to look at today are what are the different factors that affect your optimum weight. There are 5 in total. Now, this is a graph that was done, an analysis of all the different European footballers across the world in the top leagues. Now, what it shows are very simple different numbers. We've got the green number represents the average height, and the blue numbers represents the average weight. And across the bottom we've got the different positions. We've got goalkeepers, central defenders, wing backs, all the way up to strikers. Now, as you can see, the average height and weight for the different positions is different. Goalkeepers tend to be the tallest footballers in Europe, and they're also the heaviest, whereas wing forwards, people that play in the wings, tend to be the lightest footballers, and you can see the different positions there. You don't need to know this for the exam, but it'll help you to make sense of why optimum weight differs in different sports. Now, these are the different factors that you need to know that affect optimum weight. There are 5 in total. It's important that you jot these down and note these down and you remember them for your exam. We've got height, gender, bone structure, muscle girth and genetics, and we're going to look now at how they affect your optimum weight. So the first one is height. Now, generally the taller somebody is, the heavier they are. Let's illustrate in this picture here. We've got the, 2 basketballers, 7'8" and 6'8", and the average person who's 5'10". If you were to measure these on the scales, you would tend to find that the taller person will be heavier than the smaller person, and this can affect the position you play in a sport or the type of sport you play. The second factor that affects your optimum weight, your most favourable weight, is gender. And this males tend to be heavier than females due to having larger bones and more muscle mass. And that's important. That's generally sometimes why you don't have a lot of mixed sports as well, because of those differences. The third factor that affects your optimum weight is bone structure. We all have different body shapes and different bone structures. Some people have broad shoulders, some people have wide hips, and this will affect your optimum weight. Generally, the more bone you have in your body, the heavier you will be. The next factor that will affect your weight is muscle girth. Some people are born and tend to have more muscle girth than others, and this is just a natural thing. And you can see this in this picture here, these 2 boxers. Both are heavyweight boxers, but you can see one is a lot larger than the other, and you can see that he's obviously born with a lot more muscle girth than the other person. If they were to both do the same training regime, you would find that he would still have more muscle mass and muscle girth, which would make him a lot heavier than his opponent. And that obviously affects your optimum weight. And a big factor on your optimum weight and the weight that you have are your genetics, and these can be passed on through your parents. And we can see there we've got the 2 Neville brothers who seem to have very similar somatotypes and would probably have very similar body weights and optimum weights too. Now, your optimum weight in sport, as I said earlier on, will affect what sport you play or what position you play, and maybe give you an advantage or a disadvantage depending on your optimum weight. This is why you'll see people who are very short, who have very low muscle mass, who are horse jockeys, because that will obviously help the horse because they're generally a lot lighter. People who are taller, who have more muscle mass, who have very large bone structure, and a high muscle girth would go into sumo wrestling, because sumo wrestlers obviously need to be heavier to push their opponents out of the ring. Boxers vary because we have different weight classifications. We have featherweight all the way up to super heavyweight, and their characteristics of their body would determine what weight they would box at. And it's important that you understand that there are different optimum weights in different sports. So the optimum weight of a horse jockey would be a lot lighter than the optimum weight of a sumo wrestler. Now that doesn't mean to say that this person is fitter than that person. It just means that they have different optimum weights and most favourable weights in their different sports to get the best performance levels. Now there are lots of different ways that we can lose weight or meet our optimum weight, and that can be done through dieting, by decreasing our calorie intake, or by exercising and increasing our calorie expenditure. And you can do a combination of both of those, which would help you meet your optimum weight. So just to recap on this topic, we're looking at optimum weight in sport. Make sure you know the definition of that. Make sure you know the 5 different factors and also how they affect your optimum weight. And make sure you understand and know examples of different optimum weights for different sports. Make sure you go back and watch the video, make some notes, pause when you need to, and thank you for watching.